Welcome to Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show all about women doing great things. Women who are making the ordinary extraordinary. Women following their passion, taking action, and making a difference for themselves and others. Join me, Marji, as your host on Shining Bright by FarmHer. Hello, I am glad to be with you here today on our FarmHer radio show. We're going to jump right into our first segment, The Sparkle. And today's topic isn't actually very sparkly. It's something that doesn't get enough attention shed on it, I think, in the ag industry or in our society overall. But it's something that we're going to talk about with our upcoming guest, who is Megan Brown. She is a rancher from Northern California, a sixth-generation rancher, and a topic that is near and dear to her heart. And in thinking about this, that's why I decided that we needed to talk about it a little bit up front. So jumping back, a study from July 7th of last year from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention indicated that individuals who were involved in agriculture careers, farmers, farm workers, harvesters, ranchers, and fishers, had the highest suicide rate of any of the 30 standard occupational classification groups that were studied. They had the highest rate, and that was 84.5 per 100,000 people. That just blew my mind. It's not something that you hear talked about very often. And as incredible as it may sound, that rate for people working in agriculture is much higher than even military veterans, according to another article published by Newsweek magazine last year. And there's so many issues that are specific to agriculture. The generational aspect of farms and the desire to keep those farms and families over generations, that impact can be so much different, and it carries real trauma and it carries a real guilt with it. And then, the stoic nature, Megan's going to talk about that manning up. The stoic nature of farm families, when things go bad, you just move on. You don't have time to sit and dwell about it. And some of these things, I think, are part of the problem. And The Guardian, which is a publication, had an article just recently, just a few months ago, titled "Why Farmers Are Killing Themselves in Record Numbers." And this quote in that article got me. "We were growing food, but we couldn't afford to buy it. We worked 80 hours a week, but we couldn't afford to see a dentist, let alone a therapist. I remember a panic when a late freeze threatened our crop, the constant fights about money, the way light swept across the walls on the days when I could not force myself to get out of bed." This article in The Guardian and the beautiful pictures that went along with it of people who have suffered so much, maybe those who have lost loved ones or those who've been in situations themselves where they didn't know how to find their way out of it. These are important, and they're things that do not get talked about in agriculture. And I would just bet that the fact that it isn't okay to talk about these types of issues with your family, which is who you work with the most in agriculture, is one of the reasons that the statistics of suicide rates in farmers and ranchers is so high. And that's heartbreaking, because these people who grow our food and raise our livestock are some of the most important people to all of us, whether we know it or not. We all hope to eat at least 3 times a day, and we need farmers and we need ranchers to be there and grow that food and raise those livestock. But, mental health is such an important part to any of our well-being, and specifically in relation to farmers. So on the upcoming segment, Megan Brown and I are going to talk about, the things that she's dealt with as a woman on a 6th generational ranch, the desire to be a part of it and kind of the guilt and the pressure that goes along with that, and growing up in that world, and how she has learned to cope, how she has come up with some mechanisms for herself to be positive, to get out of bed on those days when it doesn't seem easy, to move through when you have an argument with somebody when you're working cattle, and how to stand up for yourself and how to give yourself some positive self-talk. But those are some of the important things that help her. And I think the key to that conversation is that we all have those things that we need to help us through our everyday. And it is okay to say, I'm not okay. I need some help. I need some help in how to figure this out. And so it's a pretty important topic. And if you haven't read that article, just Google farmer suicide and you'll see that article in The Guardian. And it opens up a lot of important issues. And if you do need help, reach out to a neighbor, reach out to a friend. It may not be a family member, but reach out to somebody because there's always another way. And in the United States, I want to tell you the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline phone number is 1-800-273-8255. And if you need help, don't hesitate to call.
Escape the summer hustle and make a run for the tropics. We've loaded a blender full of Jimmy Buffett's favorite island, rock, reggae, and folk songs, plus live Jimmy Buffett concerts. No matter where you are in North America, max out your summer with a beach life musical escape. Jimmy Buffett's Radio Margaritaville, Channel 24. Or listen when you get out of the car with the Sirius XM app.
Cooper Matthews, at just 17 years old, became the youngest tie-down roper to move on to the American after his third-place finish in the semifinals.
He's got a shot. 17.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whose dreams will come true? Who'll take advantage of the opportunity of a lifetime? RFD-TV's The American Semifinals, February 20th through the 24th at the Cowtown Coliseum. Get your tickets now. Go to AmericanRodeo.com.
So hello and welcome to Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show. Today I'll be talking to a farmer who has a big voice. Megan is a sixth-generation rancher from California with a knack for communication. Megan, thank you so much for being on the show today. We have met before when you welcomed me to your ranch in We've met before when you welcomed me to your ranch in Northern California. I spent that day following you with my camera. It was kind of a chilly day from what I remember. And I was there to show the beauty that your work brings to agriculture. So let's just jump right in. You're from Northern California. I already know that you're a sixth-generation rancher. Tell me a little bit about who Megan is. Obviously you grew up on the ranch, involved in agriculture. What brought you to the point to be there working at the ranch day in and day out at this point in your life?
I love it. This is my true passion in life, and I'm lucky to be born into it and to have found it. It's just there's really nothing like working for yourself and being around your animals and, really just doing what you love.
Sorry, you caught me taking a drink of coffee there. And I know you said you had some tea there as well, waiting for you. So you're right. There is nothing like doing what you love. That's I have that blessing in life too, though I'm not a rancher. But so tell me a little bit about what your ranch is made up of. Cattle, pigs. Tell me a little bit more in depth about that, please.
Well, we started out, it's a very historical ranch, obviously, but right now we do cattle, pigs, and hay. And the hay is kind of my dad's baby. The pigs are my baby, and the whole family, including my mom, does the cattle. And the cattle are just commercial Angus, black Angus cattle. The pigs are heritage pastured pigs, so they're very special. They're, California happy pigs, and pretty much any marketing label I can throw at them, I try. But they're pretty funny, and I love them. And then the hay is just beautiful mountain hay that comes off one of our ranches in Plumas County. And I try and make my dad let me drive his tractors and stuff. And I don't know, magically, I just get sent to the house. So.
Well, I know that you know your way around all of it from being there and following you. So I'm jumping back a bit. This was not a part of the TV show. Nobody else saw this. But when we showed up there, it's me and we had a producer and two videographers. And we show up and we get in your house and you had cooked us this amazing breakfast. There was like this quiche. Food, I mean, so ranching is a big part of you, but food is a big part of you too. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like you love to feed people, right?
Oh, I do. I have a big passion for food, and if I wasn't a farmer, I'd probably be a chef or probably something along those lines, maybe a food historian. But growing up, my mom was a wonderful cook. So was my grandma. So was my great aunt. And that was just something that was passed on to me. And growing up, it was, my family made it seem like it was very important to have the skill of cooking and to be able to cook for other people. Mm-hmm. And then as I grew up, I was able to help my mom cook for the ranch when we'd have big work days and what have you. And then when I got to college, I just discovered how really popular you can get if you have, Sunday dinners at your house and invite all your friends.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's a lot of fun and I enjoy it. And it's really a skill that has served me well throughout the years.
Yeah. Everyone connects over food, right? I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how excited I was when I saw that spread. And it wasn't just that, I don't know if I called it a quiche. It was like it had all kinds of vegetables in it. It was eggs. And then you had like all this fresh fruit and randomly some lemon cookies. I remember that all very clearly.
Those cookies are so good.
I know. They were amazingly good. So you mentioned something just a minute ago. If you weren't a rancher, you might be a chef or a food historian. What is a food historian? I've never heard of that. Food doesn't have a lot of history here in my house. We eat it really fast. So what's a food historian?
Yeah. Well, I first noticed what a food historian was on the show Good Eats on Food Network with Alton Brown. And he had this woman that knew everything about food. And it was amazing, all the historical stuff. And then I became friends with a couple via social media and just the stuff they know and how they make, use their knowledge to cook. It's amazing. And I love it. And I think that's really, blending two of my favorite things, food and history. So kind of right up my alley. And who's to say maybe I won't get a master's in that someday. But right now I'm pretty happy with my garden and my pigs and my cows.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that you went and got another degree in that as well. But so speaking of your pigs, when we were there, I met a very special pig who I think is no longer with us. But tell me about Silly Pig. I got to see her in action. So tell me a little bit about Silly Pig.
So I adopted Silly. I worked in town in a law office for several years because I thought, getting off the ranch would be a great experience, and it was. But when I quit there and went back to the ranch full time, I needed a friend, and my dad at that point was not real, and my mom not real keen on me keeping sows and doing a farrow to finish operation. So I just had wiener pigs that I was finishing, and I loved pigs, and I wanted a pig in my life all the time. And I had actually grown up with a pot-bellied pig too. So I went and bought myself a Silly Pig, and she was pretty spectacular. And unfortunately, she did pass away this summer. But it was before the fire, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. So that was kind of a blessing because it would have been really hard to move her.
Yeah.
But she was a character, and she really didn't like that many people. She was kind of cranky, but she loved me. She was my girl. So I taught her how to do a lot of tricks. She knew her left and her right, and she could shake, and she'd give kisses. But when she was little, she would go everywhere with me, and I'd be walking her down the streets of downtown Chico on a leash, and I'm pretty sure I caused a car accident or two.
She was super cute. That's one of my favorite pictures still is you were giving her a treat because she had just spun in a circle. But I know that Silly Pig was a pet. You have pigs that aren't pets as well, and obviously cattle that aren't pets. Mm-hmm. But you also have working dogs. That was another really neat thing that I got to see in your farm. Tell me about your dogs.
Well, when you were out here, I made a joke that 6 working dogs was my my perfect number, and I now have 6. I had 5 when you were here. But yeah, I have 6 working dogs. One is a Great Pyrenees Luna, and she stays with the pigs. But the other are Kelpies and Border Collies, and they live to work. And they are my best friends. We hang out all day. They're my pack, and I can get amazing things done with these dogs. I don't need a lot of times the extra person because my girls are so wonderful and amazing, and I love them. And yeah.
Yeah, I experienced that firsthand, and I was absolutely amazed at how they worked together and how they communicated with each other and with you. And yeah, I mean, well, let's be honest. I didn't help you at all. I just probably made things a whole lot harder for you the day that I was there, right? Because
No.
The goal is to follow, but but those dogs were hard workers. And I'm actually right here in my office. I have my little Kelpie sitting here, and she needs to come visit you because she's a hard worker too, but she only has kids to herd here. So I always feel bad, especially when I think about how gratifying it is to watch your dogs work. But so you alluded to earlier the fires. We are going to talk about those. We're going to go to break now, but I want to tell everybody thank you for joining us for Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern and Saturday at noon Eastern on Rural Radio 147 and the SiriusXM app. Stay with us, and we're going to talk to Megan a little bit more when we return.
Hi, folks. I'm Patrick Gotch with a special invitation for families to come to RFD TV's The American. Just call my Nebraska office during daytime hours and ask for the special family pack. For $100, you can bring 2 adults and as many kids that you can cram into your car or pickup and treat them to the only rodeo held in Cowboy Stadium. The world's best cowboys compete for $2 million in cash. It's one great day, and I want to see lots of families having fun on February 25th.
To order family pack tickets only, call 402-289-2085 during daytime business hours. For regular ticket orders, go to Ticketmaster.com.
I'm really proud of this event, and I hope to see you in Texas.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very special show.
Country music history comes alive with stars, songs, and stories.
You know, we're blessed with great stars here on our show tonight.
The face and voice of country music on TV and radio.
Having a good time? This is going to be fun.
Country Music Hall of Fame member Ralph Emery. Sunday right here on America's only agribusiness and Western lifestyle network, Rural Radio.
There's more to come here on The Ralph Emery Show.
U.S. Farm Report with host Tyne Morgan, commentator John Phipps, farm director Al Pell, and meteorologist Mike Hoffman.
I'm Tyne Morgan, host of U.S. Farm Report. You can hear us Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern and Sundays at 8 a.m. Eastern right here on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM.
U.S. Farm Report. Trusted, timely, tradition.
The richest one-day rodeo and only event all year where PRCA and PBR bull riders compete head-to-head. The one and only rodeo at AT&T Stadium, February 25th. Go to Ticketmaster.com, type in the American Rodeo, RFD TV's The American, presented by Dish.
And we are back to Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show. And we are with Megan Brown, who is a 6th-generation rancher up in Northern California. And you may all remember that not too long ago, Northern California was a big news story with the fires. And Megan, I know from watching on social media, which we became social media friends after I met you, and kind of watched this disaster unfold on your ranch. Tell us about the fires. What happened at your ranch, and just give us an idea of what how that impacted you.
Oh man, it was awful, and it definitely changed a lot of how I think and feel about natural disasters and just really life. It was really crazy because I was awake and it was like 10:30 at night, and our California now Farm Bureau president Jamie Johansson emailed me and said, "Hey, is everything okay?" I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I can see a fire at your house. Are you okay? So I went outside and I looked around, and I could see on the mountainside above our house the glowing red light of a fire. And, it looked pretty far away, but we had these winds that day. I mean, I have never experienced winds like that in Northern California. They were just unrelenting and massive and terrifying.
Yeah.
So I thought we were all right. And then I just kind of watched it, and the fire just kept growing and growing and growing. So I woke my mom up. I went over to her house and knocked on her door and, Mom, 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 Mom. And I couldn't wake her up for the longest time. But then I did, and she came outside, and we watched. And pretty soon the fire just kept coming towards us and coming towards us.
Yeah.
And it really got scary. So I got in my truck and drove down our driveway to open our gate in case, fire personnel needed to come in or anything.
Yeah.
And by the time I got up back to the house, I could see flames on the hillside. So I called my mom and I said, get your stuff, get your cat, and we have to leave now.
Because the hillside is close to you, right? Like that's just
it's
just behind really
just
like your
so
house.
Close.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if I could probably throw like a football and almost hit it.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe, I'm making a bad Napoleon Dynamite joke. But anyway, and then about that time, sure enough, all the fire engines were coming up behind me. I parked my pickup. I grabbed family pictures that I had, my Breyer horse collection that just happened to be in a tote for me. And just, dirty clothes that I changed into later that morning when I got to take a shower at my uncle's house. I wasn't really thinking that clearly, but I did grab some stuff.
Yeah.
My mom was kind of a hot mess and had to have a CAL FIRE helper because she was asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we just went to the end of our driveway and then we just proceeded to watch our ranch burn up. And it was awful, but CAL FIRE, before I left, they kind of asked me, like, what do we save? What's here? Any animals? And it happened so fast, I couldn't, even if I could, I couldn't load my pigs in a trailer.
No.
It was middle of the night. They were asleep. So I just told them there's 2 homes and a pig in the pigs. And if you guys could save that, that'd be great. Everything else can go. It's no animals were living in anything or people.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. They saved our homes. They saved my pigs and they saved our big barn with hay in it.
Wow.
And it was incredible because when you're at the end of our driveway, I couldn't see what was burning up. I could just see like silhouettes every once in a while. But then I saw my dad's big pole pile catch on fire because we were going to build a barn. And that was right in front of my pigs. And at that moment, I was convinced that my pigs were dead.
Yeah.
That I had lost all of them, including my guardian dog, Luna. So I was pretty devastated, but I was trying to hold it together for my mom, and my dad was calling from our other ranch and all my relatives. And this is, middle of the night in the morning, and we just didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And then morning rolls around, and they let us back in the ranch, and it's still burning at this point. Literally, my chicken coop is burning. And
yeah.
I talked to everybody, and they said, no, your pigs are alive. You can go see them. And I drove up there and I was crying so hard. And turns out my guardian dog, Luna, had rounded everybody up and kept them in the barn and
Luna.
saved everybody. And yeah, Luna was amazing.
Yeah.
And the CAL FIRE guy said, we tried to move her and they wouldn't let us, or she wouldn't let us. We were afraid she was going to bite us, but she saved everybody.
She was like, I am here to protect these pigs. Get away from me. And that's amazing. Yep. I met Luna when we were there. It's so inbred. It's so in her. Yeah.
Actually did catch on fire. Sorry. And my cat was in it. I thought he ran out because I left the door open when I was loading stuff. And I was like, oh, my cat burned up in the fire. But he lived in my house, even though my house caught on fire. But CAL FIRE magically this one gentleman was in the right place at the right time and was able to put the flames out on my eave. So he saved my home. I later tracked him down and took his station food.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a couple of them.
See, there you are feeding people again.
They got brownies and all kinds of soup and sandwiches and a big thank you note for saving my butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we're still cleaning up, and because we lost a couple of homes and an old historic scale house. But it was awful.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of a poor choice watching it. We probably should have driven away and just not watched.
Yeah. How scary. I can't even imagine watching. You just don't know what's happening. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. It was pretty traumatic. And then, you have to deal with the aftermath. And that's not something you ever really think about. We had to deal with FEMA. And that's something I've only seen on TV, and I never, ever, ever thought I would have to do FEMA.
Yeah.
So it was definitely this really eye-opening experience, and I have a lot more empathy for all the people that are going through horrible things, natural disasters, and and stuff right now, because it happens. It happens to everybody. And even if you think it's not going to happen to you, it'll sneak up on you.
Yeah, it can. It just goes to show that we really aren't in control of what's around us ever. And
No.
I think in agriculture, the people that I meet are already aware of that. You know, you're working with life and death on a daily basis. It is, it's just to hear you talk about it gives me chills. And I'm so glad that you're okay and that your family's okay. I know in watching on social media that you've had a big job in rebuilding since then. Fences, right? Fences are like, they're all gone, right?
Yep, everything.
Yeah.
The pigs, however, have loved that. Now they're like, I mean, they were pretty free-range pigs before, but now they have absolutely no boundaries, no fences. My neighbor calls me and he's like, hey, your pigs are hanging out with my horses. You want to come get them?
You're like, no, that they're out of my control.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then, you know, because of the cleanup, we had a lot of people come up to the ranch and test soil and actually, you know, clean up the fire. And the pigs have bonded with certain people, and they'll come up and will ask for belly rubs. And, you know, a lot of these people have never seen a big 600-pound sow a day in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So they freak out. So we have like guard pigs now. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, a big pig is something to be intimidated by. I still remember when I was there at your ranch, there were a bunch of little pigs there at that point, and they were like rolling around on my feet, and I made a comment that they were like cats, and they were so cute. But yeah, you have a definite connection to the animals. It was clear to see. And we're getting ready to go to break here in a minute. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more. You know, you said that ranching is your passion, and I want to talk a little bit more about that and some of the unique ways that you extend that to others. So be sure to stick with us here on Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show. We're talking to Megan Brown, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
RFD TV's The American is almost here. The one and only rodeo at AT&T Stadium. The world's top 10 cowboys and cowgirls compete against 5 challengers in 7 different events, with $2 million in cash on the line. The only event all year where PRCA and PBR bull riders compete head-to-head. RFD TV's The American, presented by Dish. Sunday, February 25th. Go to Ticketmaster.com. Type in The American Rodeo and get your tickets today.
How can you maximize yield and profits on your farm? Hi, I'm Darren Hefty. On the Ag PhD radio show, we talk about all the ways you can get the most return on investment for the crops on your farm. Our guests are farmers and experts in the industry, and we discuss the latest innovations in fertility, crop production, seed traits, and much more. We also answer your questions live via phone, email, or Twitter. Don't miss the next Ag PhD radio show, weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central on Rural Radio Sirius XM Channel 147.
If there's one thing farmers and ranchers care deeply about, it's the weather. That's why RFD TV and the Weather Channel have teamed up to bring you an unrivaled 7-day forecast. A perfect combination of the Weather Channel's superior forecasting technology, coupled with RFD TV's deep understanding of farmers and ranchers. Look for it throughout the day on RFD TV and on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. The RFD TV Weather Channel Farm and Ranch Forecast, every day on RFD TV.
Hi, everybody. This is Steve Kenyon from Rural Radio's Western Sports Roundup. Join Amy Wilson and me weekday afternoons as we highlight the best in Western sports and take you on the road to RFD TV's The American. We'll talk to the qualifiers, the champions, and share all the latest breaking news. Western Sports Roundup is counting you down to rodeo's richest Sunday. RFD TV's The American, Sunday, February the 25th at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Join us weekday afternoons at 6 Eastern on Rural Radio, Sirius XM Channel 147.
And we are back on Shining Bright by FarmHer on Rural Radio 147 on Sirius XM and the Sirius XM app. And today we're talking with Megan Brown, a 6th-generation rancher from California, from Northern California. We just got done talking about the fires up there and how they impacted Megan and the ranch. And earlier, Megan, you mentioned that, you know, ranching, you're doing this. You're there on the ranch because it is your passion. What about ranching is it that drives you? What is it specifically that makes you want to stay there through the ups and downs of every day? Because I know they're there.
There's a lot of ups and downs, that's for sure. That's a really good question. I don't know. I love being around the animals. Like, they're just very soothing to me, and it feels right. Like, I walk out in the morning and I'm greeted by my pack of dogs, and we go check on the pigs, and they, oink and wag their tails. And then I have, my little house herd of bottle calves that will talk to you as well. And it's a lovely life. It's just wonderful and beautiful. And, there are really bad, sad parts to it as well, but I think it balances out in a way that just feels good and natural to me.
Yeah. I know that you have a lot of ways that you connect with, I don't know if I want to call it consumers, that you connect with people outside of agriculture, whether they're friends of yours on social media. I think you would consider the people on social media friends as well. And I know one thing that I see you talk about quite regularly on social media is ranch days. So you open up your ranch and you find ways, whether they're young kids or people who are not kids, to welcome them there. Tell me a little bit about that.
We started ranch days about 2 years ago, kind of as a real thing. And then they've just blossomed since then. They're very popular. So now I used to do one a year, 2 a year. Now I have to do about one a month, just because there's such an interest in them. If I don't do them more often, I have such a large crowd, I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So now I have kids ranch days, I have adult ranch days, and now my new one is I'm inviting some local politicians out, and we're going to have politician ranch days where they can actually come to a ranch, talk to agriculture. My city urban friends can come talk to them as well, and we can meet and hang out. I find that ranch days are just a really fun day. Sometimes there's alcohol involved, so we'll make a fancy cocktail.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just make my grandma's punch for the kids. But each day is different, and each day we do something different. Like the next one we're going to do is a hike and a picnic, and that's more adult themed. But then the one we're doing after that is a work day for kids. And parents are really excited. I'm really excited. It's just always a really glorious, fun time, and I get to cook for everybody. So you know how I feel about that.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the well, first of all, are the ranch days open to anybody? Are they your friends? Are they neighbors? Are they people on social media? Who comes to these?
I try and do a really good mix. I try and do a good mix of people that know each other, people that don't know each other, and people I think that would really like each other. And I end up, last time I had a bunch of birders come, and, those are the people that drive out and look at all the different birds. And then I had a bunch of, young mothers with little kids. And it was a really neat group. And the birders knew a lot about the biology of the birds around, and the kids always have a lot of questions. So it was just, wonderful. And then I always have the unexpected happen, and I guess I can talk about this because it is kind of funny.
Yeah.
I had a pig in heat last time.
Oh.
So and of course there was little kids there.
Yeah.
So they learned what piggyback rides were.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Everybody handled it like a champ.
Welcome to life on the ranch.
Yeah, and it's good. And then when I have piglets, they get to come back out and play with the piglets, and it works. It's scary, and I did get more insurance for it.
Yeah,
but it's worked really, really well.
That's a really important thing that I guess I hadn't thought about when I see you talk about these ranch days is making sure that you're it's a great thing to reach out to your community and invite them there, but yeah, that's a big liability for you because you're dealing with people that don't know anything about how to be around animals, right?
Yeah, the first couple ranch days, I had to learn a lot too because I was just turning people loose and saying, have fun. And then I had a little kid take one of the cookies I give to my pigs and actually put her whole hand inside my 600-pound sow's mouth. No. And I had a heart attack. Mm-hmm. And, the parents didn't know that wasn't something that should be done. So, that's another thing I have to remind people that this is not a petting zoo. This is a real ranch, and they need to respect the animals as livestock and not pets.
Yeah.
And lessons are learned, and it works, but nobody's gotten hurt yet. Oh, there was a little incident where I was climbing a fence and I accidentally kicked the cutest little blonde girl in the face with my boot. And I'm going to buy her a pony in a couple years, so we're going to be okay. But I felt awful.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't.
But you want to hear a funny story about that? Her mom called me like the ranch day after, and she showed me a picture of something her daughter did at school, and it was like, if you could go to anywhere, where was your favorite place in the world? It was Disneyland and Brown Ranch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See, you're making an impact. I have no doubt about that. I wish I lived closer than Iowa and I could go to some of your ranch days. But one of the other things that I know that you do, speaking of kids, is, and we only have a couple minutes left here in this segment, but I'd love to hear just a little bit about your program that you have that helps, is it a scholarship program? Is that the right word for it? Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Program.
Yeah.
So all my friends are having babies. I'm not. I'm doing really well with my pigs. So when somebody is born, I give them a piglet, and the deal is they have to come out and work that means they just have to come out and visit me and let me hold the baby.
Yes.
And then the parents have to buy the pig from the baby with the understanding that money will go into a fund for their either going to school or a trade school when they're a teenager.
Yeah. And when the parent buys the pig from the baby, do they have it harvested? Does it become meat or what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a life lesson.
And usually
that's
about
taught.
that time, the baby can eat solids. So it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get that baby introduced to some bacon, some pork.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's, I mean,
Come to the dark side.
Yeah, I think it's the bright side. Personally, that's one of my favorite foods. But
I agree.
But I think that's such an important piece because, connecting people with agriculture is so important. But, and you have this great love for your animals, but at the end of the day, they are there for the purpose of becoming food. And so, making sure that it seems like you've kind of got the full circle in that scholarship program. It connects them to that, but it keeps that greater purpose there, right?
Yeah. And that was, being a ranch kid, that was a lesson I learned very, very early. And I think it helped me adjust later in life when I had to learn about, death of a grandparent or what have you. It's the cycle of life. This is how it works. This is how it happens. And easing these kids into it early, I think it impacts them, and I think they enjoy it. I mean, these kids, they love to come out. Like I'm Farmer Megan to them, and it's a big reward when they get to come to the ranch.
Yeah, well, I understand. It was a reward when I came to your ranch too. So it was fun. It was fun. Like I said, I wish I lived closer. Well, we are getting ready to go to break. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're talking to Megan Brown, who is a FarmHer in Northern California here on Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show on Rural Radio 147 and the Sirius XM app.
Hi, folks. I'm Patrick Gotch with a special invitation for families to come to RFD TV's The American. Just call my Nebraska office during daytime hours and ask for the special family pack. For $100, you can bring 2 adults and as many kids that you can cram into your car or pickup and treat them to the only rodeo held in Cowboy Stadium. The world's best cowboys compete for $2 million in cash. It's one great day, and I want to see lots of families having fun on February 25th.
To order family pack tickets only, call 402-289-2085 during daytime business hours. For regular ticket orders, go to Ticketmaster.com.
I'm really proud of this event, and I hope to see you in Texas.
This is Marji Geiler-Alanese, and this is a FarmHer Minute on Rural Radio. Let's meet FarmHer Jennifer Berdahl.
Our family business was really important to us, and my parents had started slowly talking about cutting back a little bit, retiring a little bit, selling the store first, but keeping the orchard. And I didn't really like that. So my husband and I bought the store. The honey glaze is our best seller. It's the most popular. Oh, so good. So we'll make sure that we get you some of those. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So you make all these right next door?
Mm-hmm.
So you said the candies are the part that you guys sell the most of here?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you sell them just here, or do you ship them over?
We ship all over the United States. We have quite a few wholesale accounts. We sell to the Austin airport and lots of other gift shops along the way.
See FarmHer Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on RFD TV. rural America's most important network. And for a full program schedule, visit rfdtv.com.
Hey, it's Flint Rasmussen from Outside the Barrel, and this week on The Big Show, we welcome the big winner from last week's Anaheim PBR, the one and only Cody Nance. Also joining us, the champion bareback rider from the Fort Worth Stock Show, Wyoming's J.R. Vizane. It's all on Outside the Barrel with Flint Rasmussen, Friday at 5 Eastern, 3 in the mountains. And again Sunday at 1 Eastern on Rural Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 147, the Sirius XM app.
And we are back. We're talking with Megan Brown, who is a rancher who has been on our TV show and someone I've had the pleasure to get to spend some time with. And Megan, as we come back, I want to talk to you about an issue that has kind of come to the forefront a little bit more for me lately, and that's mental health. I know when we have visited before, we've talked about this. An article came out not too long ago in The Guardian, and it talked about suicide rates for people in agriculture being higher than really any other industry. And it kind of shed I shouldn't say a new light, it just shed a light somewhere where in agriculture it's not really talked about much. But this article pointed out that farmer suicide rates are higher than veteran suicide rates, which to me is shocking, right? And I know you have you've been outspoken about mental health and agriculture in the past. Can you I guess open up this conversation with why that matters to you and kind of what your stance is on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this topic because it's a topic that needs to be addressed more in agriculture. I have family members that have died by suicide, and they were ranchers for their whole entire lives. It's definitely something that affects us because there is a real masculine man up. I remember getting a sliver when I was a little tow-headed 3-year-old and crying. And my uncle being like, "It's a long way from your heart, man up." I was 3. So there's
tough.
there's a lot of that in agriculture. And when I was going through my, I had a really tough time in my 20s, and I sought out therapy, and I was on medication, and it absolutely changed my life. I am so much better and able to cope with the things that I have to deal with on a daily basis. But so many of my peers are not open to getting help. They won't even talk about it. Yeah. So in the article that came out that Debbie did in The Guardian came out, it normalizes it and it makes it okay to start having these conversations. And then more people like me have popped up and started talking about it. And, it's a really positive trend. I hope it continues just because a lot of us, I'll use me for an example. I work with my parents. I worked with my grandpa for the first 12 years of my life. I live in a house that my great aunt lived in. There's so much history here, and there's a lot of patterns that repeat themselves, and we can't break them. And a lot of those patterns are really unhealthy. So, getting some outside perspective and learning how to deal with conflict better. I see a lot of that in agriculture. That really helps us immensely. And I hope this trend continues. And I think because of the people like you, it will. And I'm really excited about that. And I think, we're going to see some really positive results in a few years.
Honestly, I don't mean to say women are the answer for everything, but, we talk about things a little bit more maybe than men have traditionally, or maybe, at least maybe amongst ourselves. But I think that, it's important that we open up these conversations because I agree it's not just in agriculture, everywhere. There's this huge stigma attached to it. But I think that people in agriculture, from my perspective, have a unique set of issues for the reasons you mentioned. You're working with your family all the time, and those things that are difficult, you can't get away from them, and it might be hard to break. So, getting help is key. Is there I don't know if there's anything you can tell our listeners. Like, do you have some like coping mechanisms that you go to that maybe are things that you've learned that help you kind of rise above and keep moving through the day when you just want to chuck it all?
Oh, yeah. I had to learn those. I mean, I had to actually go to therapy and pay a lot of money to have someone sit me down and teach me how to breathe sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad or upset, I'll just hold my breath, and that makes things worse because I'm not getting enough oxygen. So learning how to breathe through it, learning how to talk to myself in a way that doesn't put myself down.
Yeah.
Sometimes, when you're working cattle or in a stressful situation, you'll find yourself talking to yourself in a way that you wouldn't talk to another human being out loud. But so things like that. And, I think everybody has their own unique set of triggers or what have you. But learning just how to cope and not lose your stuffing when, the shit hits the fan, that was a big, big thing that really, really did help me a whole lot. And, just like you said, women talk about this stuff. And once I started talking about it, other women, mainly women, just stepped forward and saying, yeah, me too. I've had the same problem. What worked for you? This worked for me. And it helped immensely. It was just like a big weight off my shoulders to know I was not the only one.
Yeah. And I think that's important because I was going to ask you, what would you say to someone who might need help but doesn't know how to find it? Or maybe says, like, I don't have the health insurance or I don't have the money to go pay a therapist. What would you tell somebody who says, I don't know where to turn for help?
That was one of my big problems because I worked on the ranch and I didn't have the money or the insurance to seek out help. Mm-hmm. So, there are programs out there and there are people that if you reach out to them, they will get you into those programs and they will help you. But really just taking that first step and finding somebody, even me, find me on social media. I will talk to you. I will give you the knowledge that I have gleaned, and I can hopefully send you in the right direction. Now I've made a lot of friends in this industry and a lot of people are willing to talk about it now. So it's kind of a new ball game. And, if you are struggling, there are resources and there are people that really want to help you.
I think your point on social media was a great one. And while there's so many things that I could say that are negative about social media, I think that one of the really positive things for agriculture is you might be isolated. You might be in the middle of nowhere, Montana, with the closest person like 40 minutes away. But you have, I hope most people have access to social media now. And that can open up a whole new world of people, right? And it has for you. I mean, you have, tell me about some of the friends that you've made on social media.
I have this most amazing plethora of amazing people in my life now because of social media. And it's allowed me to, do things on my bucket list. And it's allowed me to expand my point of view in a really wonderful way that's really helped me connect with our urban peers and our customers. And it's benefited me in so many ways. It's there. Like you said, there are negatives and bad things do happen on social media, but overall, I have to say it's just really been a gift to people in agriculture, especially because, for example, when the fire happened, I can't tell you how many women and people that have seen FarmHer reached out that night, and it helped me so much. Like I was on the verge of just losing my shit, and people were emailing from all around the world saying, hey, we're watching you on social media. We're here for you. It's going to be okay. And I cannot tell you what that meant to me. I mean, it saved me.
Yeah, I am so glad to hear that. That warms my heart in a way that you can't imagine, because obviously we're there to shine a light on all of the good that you do, and it's a really neat thing to see the community that can be formed through these things. We are getting ready to close out this segment, but I would like to just reiterate Megan's comment that there is help out there if you need it. There's always another way. And one of the numbers I found when I was doing some research in the U.S., the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. And that would be one of the ways that you could at least start to reach out to somebody if you're needing help. We're going to go to break now, but we'll be back here in just a few minutes with the Social Buzz.
The world's best cowboys versus up-and-coming challengers compete for $2 million in cash. The one and only rodeo at AT&T Stadium, February 25th. Go to Ticketmaster.com, type in the American Rodeo. RFD TV's The American, presented by Dish.
The Market Day Report. 5 hours of news that matters to rural America.
The markets, the lifeblood of information for farmers and ranchers.
Global markets are really in turmoil yet again today.
We try to dig deeper into the reasons behind the trade.
When this thing starts to turn around, you better look out.
And a weather report tailored to fit the needs of family farmers.
Very active weather day across a majority of rural America.
Market Day Report, weekdays 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern on Rural Radio 147.
SiriusXM's Rural Radio is your guide to the agricultural markets.
I'm John Jenkinson. It's all about the rural lifestyle and the ag industry. It's not just farming.
Your money.
Hi, this is Christina Loren with the Market Day Report. Our coverage of news, weather, and the commodity markets targeted to rural America.
Your information.
I'm Darren Hefty. I'm Brian Hefty. Darren and I host the Ag PhD radio show. Open up the farm and the challenges we face. You can learn how to do it for yourself.
Rural Radio, SiriusXM 147, or listen on the SiriusXM app.
How do you judge your investment's performance? Do you compare it to the market? Which one? Coming up on America's Financial Coach, Al Shingren and Mark Oppel discuss the different performance benchmarks and which one might be right for your investments. And they'll take your calls at 855-7766-147. Don't miss America's Financial Coach, presented by American Century Investments, Tuesday and Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, right here on Rural Radio 147 and the SiriusXM app.
Okay, so we are back with our Social Buzz, and this is a chance to talk about some of the things that are going on social media. Obviously, people can call in to us with their comments at 855-776-6147. And today we're going to focus on some of the ways people are using the FarmHer hashtag. And Megan, when I Googled the FarmHer hashtag this morning, the very first tweet that came up for whatever reason on Google was from you. And I thought that's timely. And your Twitter handle is at MegRaeB, MEGRAEB. And your tweet was, some women wake up to good morning, beautiful, or thinking of you texts. I wake up to, will you come castrate our pigs? Hashtag FarmHer, hashtag AgHag. Hashtag I said yes. Tell me about this situation that occurred yesterday or whenever this was.
Yeah. Sorry, it made me giggle.
Yeah.
I've sold a lot of pigs to people that want to get in the pig business. And when I do that, I impress upon them that I am here for them the whole way through. If they need help farrowing out, if they need help castrating, I'm here for them because that's what people did for me. Kristen Food and Swine being one of those.
Yeah.
So I'm paying it forward because of her. So the other morning, one of the people that had bought a breeding set from me had piglets. They were really excited, but they needed a little help. And that was the text I woke up to, and it just made me chuckle.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it made me laugh too. I actually saw this the other day on Twitter, and then it popped back up. So it's reoccurred in my life. But
oh, good.
You do a great job.
I'm going out Sunday.
Are you? Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. You do a great job of putting yourself and these thoughts of yours out there on social media and connecting with people that way. And thank you for using the FarmHer hashtag. I have to say, that's always exciting for me to see. One of the other.
Thank you for creating it.
well, yeah, like it was kind of an accident, but here we are. So one of the other things that happens, so I know that Megan, for those of you who have not seen our TV show, is a beautiful young woman. And as she mentioned earlier, she is not married. And so I do know that the aftermath of the television show, which just recently re-aired on RFD TV, you have had some interesting proposals. Is that right? I mean, people who are bold and put themselves out there.
I've had a couple of marriage proposals.
Why not?
That's always a little flattering.
Any Here's a tip for those young men. Have any of these proposals like led to you talking to anybody, or I mean, where is this gone, or what happens then?
Mainly, I'll admit I lurk at them. I try and lurk at them on social media because, like, I want to see these guys. Like, if they're cute, like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I have not been able to find anody. So if you guys are, asking me to marry you, have a Facebook profile. Come on.
We need to do a little stalking. I told you earlier that's how I met my husband on MySpace, which totally dates us and will forever have like this brief period in time. But and Tony, just the producer here, and my husband just put up a hashtag begging for Megan. So maybe you need to start your own new hashtag of these people who follow FarmHer and they love Megan. But it's amazing what you can connect with over social media for sure.
It really is.
Yeah. So another thing, that I see somebody's used the FarmHer hashtag. They're enjoying sunbathing while they're cleaning out stalls. Is it warm up in your part of the country right now? What's going on weather-wise up by you? Are you getting a little sunshine?
Here in California?
Yeah. You.
Oh, we're finally getting rain. It's amazing. I got to sleep in this morning.
Ooh.
But before that, I was actually out in short sleeves building fence. So it's been lovely days, really, but we're not supposed to really have these lovely days. We need more rain, but we're finally getting it, and it's glorious. And I'm going to go take a nap later.
That sounds so. It's like a mental health day when you get some rain up there.
Yeah.
So, well, that's important too. I wish that I could have some mental health days when it rained here, but a lot of my work with FarmHer occurs inside. So, there's that.
Aww.
But I know that's okay. I have mental health days other times. So that pretty much wraps up our social buzz for today. So thank you to Megan, and thank you to all of you who have tuned in for Shining Bright, the FarmHer radio show, all about everyday women who are doing amazing things. Women like Megan who make the ordinary extraordinary. So be sure to join me every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern and Saturday at noon Eastern for Shining Bright on Rural Radio 147 and the Sirius XM app. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Shining Bright by FarmHer. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern and Saturday at noon Eastern on Rural Radio 147 and the Sirius XM app. And now, go shine bright.